Yo, man, I keep trying to come with you, but this whole team's on me, chasing me.
Taking fire. I see an enemy over there.
It's a wrap. You're just sitting back watching. Yo, I think I got it fixed. Can you hear me? Yo, I think I got it fixed. Can you hear me? Yo, I think I got it fixed. Oop. Can you hear me? It's gonna double up. Yo. Pretty sure I'm good to go. That was a massive game. Too bad y'all missed that. I had 12 kills. I ended up winning. My teammate quit on me. I'll have to send it to my in the Discord. He quit on me. I get 12 kills, 2,700 damage.
I've got what you need, if you can afford it. I've seen it all. Nothing surprises me. This is your champion.
You got a mic, dude?
Yes, sir.
Sweet.
Are you gonna drop?
Dropping
There
in.
we go.
Hang on.
Here you go. Just making sure.
Attention. First blood. First blood. Should have seen that coming. Round one.
Should be able to win this.
Hell
Next
yeah.
ring's not very close.
Is the choke even used on now? Sorry guys about the connection stuff. Not sure what was going on.
The champion has been eliminated.
It's not as strong as Keeper, but it's okay.
Body shield here. Attention. Level 1. There is a new kill leader. Beeps. Don't drive in position.
I can't even see my chat. In my chat.
Attention. There is a new kill leader. New
Oh, not sure what's going on, but
Enemy down.
Huh?
Reloading. Took care of that one. Nice work. I have eyes on the enemy.
Oh, I'm coming.
Enemy right here. We've got a minute to do
the
it.
best.
Let's go. A whole squad fell for me. I looted our teammate's banner. 45 seconds until the ring closes. Better not leave anything behind.
my chat in OBS, so if y'all are saying anything, sorry.
Using jump drive.
I'm gonna have to bring it up on my phone.
Now for the right choice.
Okay, do the chat now. What's up, Amber? Thanks for sticking around, everybody. Whoever stuck around, I'm so sorry. Not sure what's going on. Had to change even some settings on my PC, but got it working again. So, thanks for there.
Dropship there.
Oh,
Body shield here. Level 2. Let's see what we have over here. Yeah. Throwing jump drive. Enemy over there. I wonder what they found. There's someone over there. Frag out. Welcome to the shop. Just the thing for you. Target down. Look out, enemy here. Whole squad down. Now let's see what they left us. Nice choice.
still there, Amber? That's actually not bad. The game more balanced now. Different, mostly.
Throwing jump drive. Hold on, I need to heal. Healing up. Eyes are open though.
Good. Yeah, it took me a second to fix it, so. I don't know what the heck was going on. Can't see in this.
Activating jump drive.
What I need. We are so far.
Myself up. Hold on, I need to use that jump tower.
Yeah, I can't see my stream chat on my OBS. I've got it up right now on my phone.
Jump drive set. Activating jump drive. Healing.
Alright, nice.
I don't know. Just on my streaming PC, I have a big thing that shows the chat. There's something wrong with my streaming program. That's why it was messed up. It's okay though. All I gotta do is reset it. It will come back up, but I can't reset it right now because if I do reset it, it will restart the. I can try to just refresh the panel though, see if that works. Nothing I need here.
Let's see what we have over here. Tossing jump drive. Shop's open for business. One minute until my favorite kind of loot. The kind that's all mine.
Update your dubs. Oh yeah, I do need to, don't I? I got one.
45 seconds. Rings close.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a thing where you can actually do that for me. It's currently hard for me to do it, honestly. It's hard for me to pay attention. And
Let's go here. Someone's been here. Not worth my time. Don't drive out. The ring's close. Warning. Ring movement in progress.
I did.
Body shield here. Level 3. Patching myself up. Delivery care package. Care package coming in. Let's go here. Activating jump drive. Beginning ring countdown. Heads up, not all of us are in the ring. We made it to the top 3. Now to clean up the rest.
Peacekeeper. I haven't got one yet. Well, they vaulted this and now it's a gold weapon. Gold. Gotta see something soon.
Somebody's aiming at me.
We've got a minute until the ring closes. If you want it, bag it. Shops open for business. "45 seconds until the ring closes. We've got time, but not much."
Really like Loba. Super cool character. Where are these guys? They're up here.
Let's see what we have over here. Enemy over there. Don't let them see you. Hostile close. Firing. Recharging shields. Attention. Recharging my shield. Care package. Reloading. The package coming in. Throwing an arc star. Need to recharge my shield. Hold on. Enemy here.
They're getting flanked.
Look out! Enemy here. Thermite out.
Right under.
Recharging my shield.
One shot.
Reloading.
Thanks
Enemy
for
down.
listening.
Healing. Need to recharge my shield. Recharging shields. Recharging my shields. Recharging my shields. Patching myself up. Enemy here. Enemy over there. Let's go this way. Healing up. Eyes are open now. Recharging shield. 45 seconds until the ring closes. We've got time, but not much. Open up shop and shut them down. Need to recharge my shields. Mama's got you now. Nice choice. You got good taste.
Let's weaken him and then just push. I hit him 40. This guy's alone. I'm gonna go right to the right away.
Throwing jump drive. All out. Recharging my shields. Reloading. Enemy down.
Let's go. Let's go, boy. Good job, homie. Loba is so good, dude. I'm telling you, man. The next best thing. Man, she sets up so many opportunities for plays. Alright, 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 alright. Right. See, I'm on track. Keep look. Go. Trying to get that 3.0 KD this season. 2.61. Update the dubs again. Alright, we played like 3 or 4 games. Already 2 dubs. Go. Playing it patient. Playing it patient. That restream. Alright. That restream. There we go. Got it. I got my chat back up. Be good to go. Height. Right, that's right. Right.
What do you get for the girl who has everything more? Introducing your champion. I'm the jump master. Don't worry, I'll take care of you.
I think we were the champions. Rookie.
Remember, eyes on the prize.
Buddy. Surprisingly. Good weapon.
Evo shield here. Level 1. Ready to do some damage? Let's go here.
Fun, dude.
We're already inside the next ring. There better be some good loot around here.
Right here.
Shooting at me.
We gotta finish this guy first. Are you kidding?
The champion has been eliminated.
How is this? They were already behind us. It's like it was just a perfect push. But if we jumped off right on that team, they would know what it is. Can't change it.
The girl with the cold hard cash is always Miss Right.
The championship is ours.
This is your champion. Follow my path to win.
I'm the jump master. I won't let you down, except by falling.
What
Hold
one,
your
brother?
breath. If you have, let's go this way.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Splendid. How are you?
Yo, thanks for the bits.
Same as green.
Appreciate that. 300 bits. Let's go. For the support of the community. Really, that's sweet. Everything y'all give goes back to the community, so. Beautiful. Playing Loba and Pathfinder is not too much different. Dude, the games are good.
That's what happens when you get too
I already had 2 dubs. First game I had 12 kills, 2700 damage. Loba. So, just trying to keep up the momentum. Lost the second, won the third. The 4th game, 5th game. Oh. Good.
New kill leader.
We'll see if we can keep up the hype.
Here I go.
Probably not neat. Purple barrel.
Let's go this way.
Heavy mag here. Level 3.
Yep. I actually have a different mic now. I can submit it on there. Oh, dude, he. There.
Hostile right here.
Don't drive set.
Contact with target. Thermite grenade out. Onslaught. Enemy taken down.
Recharging my shield.
Frag out. Frag out.
Oh, broke. This guy's up here.
Let's go this way. Setting up a zip line.
Recharging my shields. 1 minute until the ring closes. Still got time to lose.
Let's move this way.
This is a new team. Nope. 35 seconds, dude. Are you kidding? That's killing me.
Shields are recharged.
That's totally new team.
Okay.
I lasered that guy bad though. Okay.
Recharging shields.
Just go this way. Let's turn around. Let's turn around.
Yep.
Using jump drive. That hurt.
Shoulder. Dang it! I got the other guy from the other team we missed. She was running in the open field next to us. Good game, man. Good try. Oh, my boy got cooked. It's okay. Yeah, my new mic is actually, and this is not going to be the newest one. I got another one coming on the way. This mic is actually an audio file. So, that Samsung G Track Pro, I still own that, but it is not a, I don't use it anymore. It just wasn't as,
I'm looking for someone
wasn't everything I needed.
to take out. All that matters.
Oh, you doing amazing though? You doing good? You played it all today? Again, Insanity, thank you so much for that gift.
Your champion.
Marvelous. So many willing test subjects.
Okay, okay.
I'm the jump master. Don't
I hope my teammates can get some traction.
eyes on the prize.
First game I play, my teammate quits.
Let's see what we have over here.
Next game. Yeah, it's pretty far, but we can push in quick.
Okay, I could. I know you were talking, but I could not hear you. You were really quiet.
I hear a bug. A bug. Right here. Whee! Piercer, nice.
The next ring's far.
Hit it probably, but
Loot as you go, boys and girls. First blood. That was quick. Jump drive set.
oh yeah, she's very good. Like if you were here for the first game, you would have seen I had some incredible plays with her. First game, I had 12 kills, almost 3,000 damage. I won it solo because of her. And then the last game we just won, 2 games ago, I did a nice push with her that set us up. So a few things. One, like if you're trying to compare Loba to Pathfinder, one is that Loba, she can move almost instantly, right? But it still takes the travel time of her device. So like, okay, we gotta wait 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's like 6 seconds, right? Pathfinder can do that same thing. But see, with his, the difference is you're more mobile. So like you're flying through the air and they can see you, but you still can aim and everything the whole time. With her, you can't. You have to throw it and then you have to wait. And then while you're waiting, you are disabled for like, I think it's like 2.5 seconds when you land. So, in that, which one's better? I just think it matters on how you use the
Like that champion was all talk.
abilities. You can't be as, I don't think in a lot of situations, as aggressive with her as you can with Pathfinder. But then again, you can be. You just have to be careful on how you throw your ring, because when you throw it for 2 seconds, you're disabled. So if you throw it for somebody really good, you're standing next to them for 2 seconds and you can't shoot them. 14. No, dubs are daily. Well, I guess if I counted from last night, I might have like 8 or something.
Jump drive in position.
But I just count it every time I get on at night, so. Yeah, I'll update it. Dubs are daily. So there's some things to think about. She's really good though. Yeah, I definitely want to try to main her, especially in higher levels. I want to start playing rank, maybe tonight. And then from there, just using her fast loot ability to loot situations where you probably couldn't loot. Her ultimate.
Throwing jump drive.
Does that make sense? What I was saying about the abilities? I think on a flatline. If you find a flatline, let me know. There's 2 R99s up here.
Attention, delivering care package.
Care package on the way.
I got
Like the
enough
sound
loot,
of
man. I can check here.
Shops open, boys and girls.
There it is. I need it. Cool. He's done with it. One thing I've been forgetting is to take this down.
Remember who hooked you up. I've got your back.
After someone uses it, because then if I don't, other people can use it.
Let's go here.
We landed way out here though. anybody. Looking for a fight.
Enemy there.
See right here, like this, I can go wham. I'm gonna be right on top of this guy now. As opposed to Pathfinder, that'd be really loud. But see, he doesn't even know. Hopefully he can't get away. Missed it. She's popped. Man, I missed my shots. Should have dropped that Bloodhound instantly.
Throwing an arc star. Tossing an arc star. Shooting.
Oh my gosh, I'm knocked. My fault. The guy's missing every shot, jumping down. See that rush though, I wouldn't have been able to do that if I wasn't Pathfinder. That was just a joke. Turn it back. Should have knocked that Bloodhound. Amazing, do you play on PC or do you play on console?
I'm looking for someone special too.
Okay. You play with mouse and keyboard?
This is your champion. Something wrong with your head if you fight me. I'm the jump master. You're falling for me already.
Alright, we're gonna land in the action this time.
I bet we'll find something good here.
Razer controller? Okay, yeah. What's his name? Average Aiden used to use a Razer controller. I know what you're talking about. Oh man, we are a bit late. Well, we fucking win. Fell. So. She's already got the blue armor. That, I got the prowler. Oh. Yep. Miss every shot. Knocked her.
Target down. Activating jump drive.
Jason. Nice. Someone pushed in there, finished our kill.
Jump drive out. Taking fire. Whole squad down. Now, let's see what they left us.
Somebody pushed in there and finished our kills, so don't go in there.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Following you.
That's cool. Yeah, I switched to the mouse and keyboard. I played with controller my first like 9,000 kills. And then the last about 4,000 I switched to it. R9. Yahoo! It's kind of weird how it's doing that.
Let's go here. Copy that. There's someone over there. Don't drive in position. I bet we'll find something good here.
Nice.
Enemy there. Enemy over here.
Rush. Whoa!
Enemy
He got ripped.
Good job. Good. We're inside.
You got your portal? He's just gonna die. I should have pulled me out of there. Poor people. One of the most key things in this game is always playing your character like that. He could have easily portaled us out of there. He could have healed, came back. But instead he runs in, challenges 3 people. Things like that just make the difference in the game. But yeah, I switched to the mouse and keyboard because of looting, micro aim, quite a few things. I've been a controller player for like 15 years, so.
We have no choice but to win. Underestimate me and pay the price.
Surprised more people don't want to play her.
Introducing your champion.
Just got laser there.
I'm the jump master. You're falling for me already. Eyes on the prize.
2-3 teams going.
I bet we'll find something good here. Attention. First blood. First blood already. That's what happens when you get using jump drive.
Mason, are you using Loba now? Pretty good combo.
Beginning ring countdown.
Push in with.
Next ring's not very close. Let's see what we have over here. Jump drive in position. R99 here. Let's see what we have over here.
This guy's here with me or not? Battle's still going. Good. I haven't even been in here yet.
Tossing thermite. Tossing an arc star.
Yeah, Yeah, how could he have got past that? Oh no!
I'm down.
Dude, I'm just getting work. Okay. So bad. Alright, alright. Let's see if we can get a partner. I'm gonna see if I can get a partner. In that situation, that's like where Loba, she just can't get away like Pathfinder. Alright, we set the bait. Let's just see if somebody gets on. I'll probably play like Loba, Pathfinder back and forth. Get it on the team. I want to see how she really works in ranked. If she is actually good at ranked, I am gonna main her.
After what I've seen, nothing down there scares me.
I'm a Jet main. I just played with this guy.
This is going to be fun.
Introducing your champion.
Oh, we're the champions. Cool. We're the champs.
Awesome. I'm the jump master. This might be a good place to land.
Yes.
Hold your breath. If you have a woohoo! Is that how I do it?
I wonder what they found. Attention. First blood. First blood already. That's what happens when you get too excited.
Yo, Tweety Mac, thanks for the follow.
Reloading.
We're all rested and trained. For that activating jump drive.
Guy, yo, can you push with me? Or are you chasing somebody?
Fire on the enemy. Throwing thermite. Enemy taken down.
What's up, man?
Reloading. Took out an enemy.
Ooh, impressive. Enemy right here.
Reloading.
Reloading.
Yo, Tweety Mac, thanks for the follow, man. Appreciate that.
Perfect.
Appreciate it. Ooh, got that flatline.
Reloading.
Got that flatline. That boy took the flatline, man. Got that flatline.
We should go this way. Let's move this way.
There's an enemy close by.
Throwing Arc Star. Arc Star out.
Tossing an arc star.
Oh, he ripped me. It's a bad situation. Yeah, he's rushing bad.
Recharging shield.
Activate shotgun.
Keep fighting. Reloading.
Oh, where's my homie? Behind me.
Recharging shields.
Hold on, I need to heal.
Repairing my damages.
Champion eliminated.
This is not the guy. I didn't mean to fall.
Phew. Inside the next ring.
Oh, but it paid off.
Guess I'm the new kill leader. Go me.
Dude, that alternator is a beast. That was pretty cool, huh? Alternator is very good.
Got our friend's banner. This is great. Grappling.
See that those situations like that, those are not possible with Loba. This guy's missing. You can't do that kind of stuff with Loba. I'm gonna watch this guy, bait him in. Probably gonna run across the field. Not across the field, but I can't move, dude. I'm stuck. I'm dead. They're both here. That was so bad. I should have just pulled back. Yeah, go ahead. Do it. Do it. I thought there was only one guy. Oh, nice. Nice, nice. He's pro. He's pro. Dude, literally one little bullet. He did it! Oh, yeah, keep running, just keep going far, far. Go to the farthest one. I would. They're probably gonna chase you.
This way, let's go.
Yeah, I'll go to the one to the left.
This way.
Yeah, he can get me back at a respawn beacon. Yeah. Got murked. I didn't know they were both pushing. Oh, they didn't chase. That's cool. They're out there though. I see them. Okay. Oh, Loba's good, but They're still my main right now.
Energy ammo here.
Kill those.
Body shield here. Level 2.
Let's explore this way.
Heals. What do y'all think about the Pathfinder nerf? 35 seconds, really? I get they want people to play Loba, but at the end of the day, 35 seconds, it's extensive.
RE45 here.
Dude, he gives me a shield, solely burnt. That's crazy.
Healing.
Oh, well. See, that's the thing I gotta get used to now. Earlier I was thinking about how could I not get away. I got a 35-second drop on this zip line. I'm not used to that.
Let's see what we have over here.
Oh. Used to being able to kind of push in and get out. 35 seconds, you gotta use this zip line sparingly.
Might be something good this way.
Here, I wanna...
Using grapple.
Hold on, I need
Although
to
35 seconds. Not get away.
Round 2. Stop driving. We're already inside the next ring. There better be some good loot around here.
I'd rather. Ooh, a shield.
Using grapple.
Open up shop and shut them down. Mama's got you now.
Here I go. Let's explore this way.
Lovely idea.
Messages.
I need an extended light mag.
Target over there.
Lovely idea.
Guy that killed me.
Reloading. Keep eyes on the new kill leader. Throwing thermite grenade.
Hit him. Aim that where I wanted it to go. There he goes.
Target over there. Incoming care package. says not all of us are inside the next ring.
Tossing thermite.
Frag out.
What? That frag went like 2 feet. Dude, I can't get out of here. I can't because you know why? Man, dude. I can't zip away. It's extremely annoying, dude.
This skill takes experience and strength.
My guy, man. So off right there. Couldn't do anything. Nope.
I am ready. I hope you are too.
The girl with a cold hard cash is always Miss Right.
This is your champion.
I'm champion again. Cool.
This might be a good place to land.
Remember? Yes.
Might be something good this way.
Is this my guy? Oh, that's not him.
Thermite grenade out. Arc star.
Are you kidding? Bro. Man. Yeah. Yeah. Stay alive. Yo, hosting on my channel. Oh, thanks for that. Was dipping. Surprised he didn't throw his thing. He's probably saving it. You know they're gunning for you. I'll tell you. Yep, they're not all the way here. It's about a 10-second. Probably right when I hit the ground. I mean, honestly, I can see if I can get loot right here. I'm not very concerned with these guys, so. Okay. Wow, they wrecked you, huh? 57 on them? Crap, he's purple. Man, dude. Gotta trust in that L-Star at the beginning. Failed me. L-Star did nothing for me. I gotta get you set up with this panel. You can start doing actions on your PC, Amber, in the stream. This headband thing's starting to hurt my head. Just gotta get used to it. Well, I'm on my phone.
But I'll stay for
You can run it from your phone too. You'd have to switch back and forth in between like the screens, you know, like something like that. You know what I mean? Oh, that's definitely not it.
Introducing your champion.
You could have like one panel with the touchscreen, and then you can press it. It has like a phone configuration where it shows all the. You assign basically buttons to different actions on the stream.
I won't let you down, except by falling. Here we go. Let's go this way.
Keeps going. Oh, that's good. Gotcha. Yo, I don't know if my guy's here.
Body shield here. Level 2.
He keeps messaging me. I just gotta look.
Using grapple.
Do love Pathfinder though. Still no one has the mobility of him.
Let's explore this way.
A little jittery.
Might be something good this way. Hostile spotted.
New kill leader? Interesting.
I am taking fire, friends.
Alright, dude, you hit me while you're going over the. This guy's cheating. He literally is cheating. Get away. This guy's cheating. He's definitely 100% beyond the shadow without cheating. Never mind, they killed him. Hitting, dude, there's no way. You're not even by me. Can you just explain to me, like, what you're thinking right here? This is what I mean, like, you're gonna challenge both of these people solo. I don't get. I told you, man, I was pushing. Say anything back to me, but just wonder what people are thinking like that. Guy cooked me. Tea and crumpets. Gotta check my Discord.
We have no choice but to win.
We will defeat all of our enemies.
This is your champion.
We're all having a good time, especially me. Of all the fun.
Tea and crumpets. I don't got tea tonight. I got some cold coffee. Thought you had coffee. TTVX Jaeger, man. Let's go. I haven't even dropped market yet this season. Let's see what we can get. Peeps. Woo! See. Yes, yes. Oh, it's back. What's up? Where are these peeps? Man, I keep thinking I can grapple and it's still not even charged. Back.
Body shield here. Level 1.
It's still not charged. Up here.
One shot.
Yeah, 2 so far. I'm sorry, man. I thought he was definitely thought I definitely had him, dude. That alternator is good. I'm gonna start playing with it. Man, dude. Best I could. Let's go back at it. What'd you say, Carlo? Huh? Okay.
Go, dude.
Yo, what's up, man? How you doing, Grim?
Let's not finish quickly. Where's
Oh,
the
you already got the skin, huh?
Hell yeah, man.
And I just wish she had her shirt on. Why they gotta make her look so scandalous?
I don't want to kill you, but you're in my way.
I haven't played in that much. I'm actually getting back into it, so. Where do you want to go? Hot zone?
Might be better to land out here and then push in.
Oh, run off?
A lot of people are going to land there. Like, you'll see. I mean, 1,
No,
2,
that's
3.
where actually the hot zone was at last time.
Yeah.
One squad there.
It's like, there's one team here. Let's just stay together. That's all we gotta do. One team here. Guys right here. Going inside. Coming up to you. Oh, dude, I dropped my... Can't. Not want to do that. Let's just stay together, though. Whatever we do.
Where are you at? Okay.
I'm right here. Let's just push him.
Hey, someone landed over there, yeah?
Yeah. There's a guy right in front of me. Right here. He's right here hiding. He's on the ground. My bullets didn't count.
She has purple armor.
Beautiful. She's gone. I'm not chasing. She's baiting us into her friend. There's armor right here. Armor right here.
Body shield here. Level 1.
I forgot I didn't have armor.
I'm getting up top. Oh, pull back.
I damaged her in 104. He's right there.
What is she doing? She's right here.
Hostile right here.
57, shield popped. Hurt.
Her teammates up top.
Nice. Just stay there. You're good. I'm healing. Got him.
More. Fuck, that's white damage, dude. One on me. Coming around.
No, no. Dude, I'm stuck. What the heck? Are you kidding?
No, you can do it, dude.
I was stuck in the pipe. I was literally stuck. Come on, man. I ain't never seen nothing like that. It's crazy. And that was crazy. These games are sweaty. Might as well just start playing ranked.
After what I've seen, nothing down there scares me. You made the right choice this time.
Introducing your champion.
I'm the jump master. Don't worry, I'll take care of you.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Over here.
I like this spot.
Oh, I'm
Remember,
done with this,
eyes
huh?
on the prize.
Yeah.
Let's see what we have over here.
Fighting. Hope you're really bad. I just have no weapons.
Attention. First blood.
First blood.
There we
That
go.
was quick.
That's what I've been looking for every game.
Round 1. Beginning ring countdown.
We're already in the next ring. Good. More time to loot.
Like 4 people here. Or they are, but nuts.
Enemy down. I have eyes on the enemy. Grenade out. Throwing an arc star. Come on, I still need you. We took out the whole recharging shields. Healing. It's your lucky day. I've got you.
Thanks for that.
A flatline, man. It's the weapon of the day. That's my weapon.
We have a new
Flatline.
I can't wait to meet them.
Patching myself up.
Love the flatline. So good. Really not in love with $1.99 though. We already almost got purple. Let's go. Here we go. 40 more damage. Got that perp on deck. Get the purple. You know what? I haven't been using my wingman. Get out my wingman. Let's drop this. I don't even think they looted up here, guys. Check it. Got everything. What do y'all think about the new loot system? You like it? Yeah, that Drago guy killed. He's a predator, so that's encouraging. Amber, did you see my thing about that Bible study message?
Patching myself up.
Jump drive activated.
Yeah, I want to start doing that once every other week. If you're interested. Dude, that alternator though. That alternator is good now, man.
Already inside the next ring.
I lasered people with it. A few games. Tempting. Okay. I already got one person who will join us, so. I turned off his thing.
New kill leader? Interesting. Shop's open for business. Care package on the way.
What do we get? What is in here? I want this.
You
And
are
this.
coming home with
That's
me
it.
tonight.
Light ammo here. New kill leader appointed.
New kill leader? Interesting.
Massive here.
Mastiff. Look at that. I'm just like, okay. Just break it down.
I bet we'll find something good here.
Heard that.
Using jump drive. I see someone over there.
Copy that.
Enemy over there. Don't let them see you. Tossing thermite. Tossing an arc star. Throwing an arc star.
Okay, fire.
Throwing jump drive.
Oh,
Reloading.
boy, lit me.
Recharging my shields.
He's my teammate, dude.
Reloading. Fire.
Let's go.
Recharging my shields.
I spy an enemy. Hold on, I need to heal.
Let's go. That's the champ, huh?
Looks like
Good job, y'all. Good job, good job.
exciting.
Oh,
Need to recharge my shield.
have some hypes in the chat.
Patching myself.
The big one, that was a big one. Oh, the 20 kill. The diamonds. Maybe one day I'll get 20 kills. Maybe one day.
Hold on, I need to heal.
I can't.
Open up shop and shut
Guess
it
there's
down.
something we're missing.
Healing.
Sure. Definitely need ammo, and then I need a shield battery.
You are coming home with me tonight.
Heavy mag. What's that heavy mag? Here. See, there's something. I can't see it. Wherever it is. Maybe it was up here. Box.
Extended light mag here. Level 2.
where it is. So
Hold on, I need to heal. I bet we'll find something good here.
Let's go this way.
Not. What are you thinking? Enemy right here. Frag out. Reloading. Enemy down. Another squad down.
Kill leader. Good work.
Shield battery.
good work, y'all. Good work. Can do it without the Beast Squad, the Dream Team.
Recharging my shields.
Enemy that way. Tossing thermite.
I missed those. Oh, he's right there. He's controlling his thing. I didn't miss it. I killed it. Mirage, man. I like that ability. I'll say that. Push him. I gotta push.
Contact.
Recharging my shield. Another squad's attacking. Reloading. Healing.
Poster out.
Come with me over here. Jump drive out. Enemy there.
I missed those, dude.
Reloading. Need to recharge my shields.
Looking for supplies here.
Care package coming in. Reloading.
Reloading. Look out. Enemy here. Activating jump drive. Enemy here.
Heard that.
Target here. We're not all in the ring. That's how. Reloading.
Barrel stabilizer here. Level 4.
Need heavy ammo. What I need right now.
Hostile close.
Thermite out. Recharging my shields. Throwing an arc star. Opening shop. Come see the merchandise. Recharging shields. We've got a minute until the ring closes. If you want it, come on, I still need you. All good. 45 seconds until the ring closes. We've got time, but not black market here. In the mood for some shopping?
Healing up. Eyes are open now.
Getting throwables, that's all I need.
Recharging shields.
Less than 30 seconds.
Fire.
you doing, dude? Why are you not hiding? It was not a good decision. Either of your parts. Why are you sitting there challenging me?
This dimension's looking up. We haven't won yet.
Made no sense. Why would you not be healing?
Attention. We're already firing. Recharging shields. It's your lucky day. I got you. Only one more squad between us and our prize. All good. Recharging my shields. Recharging my shields.
That's them.
Making contact with enemy. Your lucky day. I got you.
Man, that guy's good. Really good. Ugh. Dang it. It was a good game.
We have our Apex champions.
Oh my god, he didn't do anything to him. Try to bait him in, but anything.
I know all the roads. They all lead to the same place. Only the best for my friends. Introducing your champion.
Dude, we've been in the champion squad every game. It's because I get in top 2 or what?
Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Let's go here. If there's one thing
Oh man, I didn't even realize. No. I'm so unused to the looting. I landed. I didn't realize that I landed down there with nothing.
I'll start here.
Sweet, sweet. That's what I want.
First blood.
I already said I was there. See no rank match, dude. Hey. What's that? Oh.
Need to recharge my shields. Throwing jump drive.
What? Dude, I hit him 60. No. Both flash. Yeah, other one's low. He's got to be 5 health, literally.
This won't hurt. Hold on.
Good job, man.
You made the right choices. I owe you one, beautiful. Reloading.
She calls Wraith beautiful. That's pretty cool. Yo, JB Hunter, thank you.
Gotta hop up here. Skull piercer. Might be something good. Optics here. Close range.
I'll take that.
Alright, let's push out of here.
We've got a minute until the ring
Syringe here.
closes. If you want
Syringe
it,
here.
bag it.
Yo, Hunter, thanks for the follow, man. Get that.
Maybe some loot over there. I'm checking it out. 45 seconds, rings close. Shotgun bolt here. Level 2.
Jump drive in position.
There is a new kill leader. New kill leader. Watch for them.
Setting up shop.
Have it here.
Don't mind if I do.
Good, we're inside.
Go. What we're gonna have. Crispy. We're decked out here. Let's go. We're about to get this Dubsky.
I need an extended light mag.
Attention. Delivering care package.
The package coming in. Med kit here. Phoenix kit here.
Oh, she can't. Can't do some things Pathfinder can. As far as range goes.
Extended light mag here. Level 2.
I need it. Thanks. Shield battery here. Shield battery here.
Better for me. Fix that. Sure.
Shield battery here.
Yo! The viewership. 31 people. Wow. Pretty cool, guys. I appreciate that. Appreciate every single viewer. Yo, tonight, probably gonna raid somebody. Host them at least. So. Who? Not sure, but.
Extended heavy mag here. Level 3. Hostile right here.
Touching jump drive.
I think someone's targeting me.
Recharging my shield.
Oh!
Reloading. I downed an enemy.
Thermite out. Let's do some shopping. Not sure. I think so. We're already inside the next ring. Taking fire! Look, enemy here! Recharging my shields. Throwing jump drive. Only 2 of the squads left. Healing up. Eyes are open now. R99 here. Let's see what we have over here. Don't drive set.
She's one shot. She's one shot. Yeah. See if I would have had the Peacekeeper. No, it fell off that cliff. Sorry, guys. Nope.
Only the best for my friends.
Give me life.
This is your champion.
I wish all of you could fight tomorrow too, but you'll be dead.
Lovely. I'm the drum master.
Glenn there. I'm itching to draw first blood.
Fine.
Okay.
Eyes on the prize.
Not feeling that R99, man. I'm gonna start going flatline. But that's... No! Oh my God. I landed on the guy's head. He's got it. He's got it. Dude, come on, man. Yo, I'm sorry. I landed on the guy's head. That was so bad. Crazy. I've never done that before. Well, first time for everything, right? We want to play ranked. There's a video I'll show you guys. About what?
I've got what you need. If you can afford it.
Yeah.
Pick me, I'm so bored.
That's sad to hear.
Your champion.
I've fought nightmares all my life. None of you fear me.
I'm the jump master.
Like that video.
I love.
Yeah, you wanna shoot? Oh, I got ripped. Yeah, I can come back up and live. Yep. Got him. Sorry.
That one's out for the count.
Actually, no.
Got him. Nice.
Beginning ring countdown. Look out, enemy here.
Charging up my shields.
Go, let's go. Go the shield.
Hold on, I need to heal.
Here now.
Recharging my shields. Attention.
Oh my gosh. Come on, man. He lasered me. Just res me. Bait him. Bait him down. Oh, you shouldn't have shot, dude. And last game I got a good one, but I cannot believe that guy just completely lasered me like that.
It's time to move out.
You and me, friend.
Introducing your champion.
Going by Casa de Octane for a
Let's touch that here.
He was a good teammate, but chasing me? Huh?
Reloading. Enemy taken down.
First blood. SMGs always go first.
Frag out.
Thank you.
Reloading. That was the whole squad.
Whole squad. Like I got a teammate who can hold his own. It's good. Try this alternator.
Let's move this way.
Healing. Watch my back. Solid copy.
Grappling.
Solo Pathfinder, man, he's so cool.
I need shotgun ammo.
Shotgun ammo here.
That double tap,
I need it.
he will not catch me.
Hostile spotted.
Roger.
Enemy spotted.
Nice. Okay. Okay, okay.
Near me. Hard start out.
There. Breathe.
Frag out.
Oh, no, it's not enough.
Shields recharged.
Popped.
To fly on a zip line.
No! Yes! Nice. Get him. Get him. Got a good teammate. Let's go.
I'm the kill leader. Ready for bear.
Good looking out. I need help.
Go.
Medkit here. Slow to roll, but they won't stop.
I am repairing myself.
Looking at me. Patching up. Giving my shields a recharge. Forget that.
Lucky us, we are almost inside the ring.
Nice. Champions out. Meat wagon's having one hell of a day.
Biden. No! Oh my gosh. Come on. Sorry, man. I cannot. I am not used to the map. That was so sad. I wonder, is my box here? Easily just be able to get all my stuff. There it is.
Watch out
It's
for
here.
your new kill leader, friend.
Well, at least that was worked out perfectly.
Let's explore this way.
Enemy in sight. Throwing thermite.
Arc star out.
Yeah, dark mode is better than light mode.
Healing. Watch my back.
Head kit? This?
Hostile. Danger close.
Reload.
Tango down.
Got him.
Host, I'm repairing myself.
Just got promoted to kill leader.
Oh,
Medkit here.
d- good.
Might be something good this way. Using grapple.
Really look at Pathfinder. I can't be using this grapple like that though anymore to move. Just did it.
It's zipline time.
Be back already, but no. Seconds.
Recharging shields. Target over there.
No!
Fire on the enemy. Thermite.
Choked so bad there.
I killed it. Recharging shield.
Attention. The kill leader has been eliminated.
Picked up our friend's banner. We can bring him back. I am taking fire.
Oh!
Only 1 minute until the ring closes. Luckily, it's not far.
I didn't get up there, man. I choked so bad. Sorry. I heard so many times. I feel like my still so unless the too smoothing on it. Us.
Trust nature. Then trust yourself.
Yo, are you live?
Yeah. Check it out.
Ah,
Come on, friend. Time to win.
2 TVs, we can't lose this, right? It's impossible.
Yeah. Yep. If we get the dub, I'll host you. Possibly. As long as you're clean, I'll host you.
Alright, let's see. Where's the dub landing spot?
Dang it.
Let's land here. Better luck. I'm flying.
Haven't seen that Pathfinder one, that's hilarious.
Boom, boom, boom. I cannot believe I cannot get up that building earlier.
First blood, and it's not us.
Combat Latrans chat. Okay. How you doing? Are you hosting me? Combat. Oh. A horrible loot.
Champion eliminated.
A champion just fell. They must not be very good.
Yo, SZU. Thank you. Appreciate that follow, man. Hey, no, put that on the sofa. Hold on there. These weapons are so bad. We're gonna have to get anything. Okay.
Enemy over there.
I'm gonna loot on my way in because
Supply bin here.
really don't have anything.
Watch out for the new kill leader, friend.
Yo, Run Pro P6, thanks for the follow. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks. What should...
The ring is not close.
How you doing, Shrimp? That Snore PR6.
There is not much time left. Headline time.
Let's go this way.
It's gotta be close here. I don't want to use my grapple because I don't get another one. I see him. Yep. Ripped. Knocked. Alright,
Is it on my roof?
Recharging shield. Been here. Arc star out. They're coming to kill us. Enemy taken down. Hostile right here.
Go. Let's go! I didn't even mean to grab that Loba. I was totally aiming for the wall.
Level 3.
And I just happened to grab her. Let's switch to the flatline because I can't find any ammo for that Havoc. Havoc is still just so good. I use the grapple. Use it.
Let's explore this. Someone traveled through here recently.
30 seconds ago.
Let's explore this. Friends, I'm going to loot over. I'm going to watch that.
Alright, I'm following you. Where did they go?
Someone traveled through here.
Deploy. Target spotted. Throwing arc.
Ripped.
Oh, no shield. Nice.
Our enemies have met their fate. That squad is out.
I love Pathfinder, dude. It's so good.
Giving my shield. Frag out.
They ran. I ripped them bad. Let me pop this.
Someone traveled through here recently. Taking a moment to recharge.
Making contact.
Get in the building. Get in the building. They're gonna both die. They're both flesh. There's another team pushing them from the cave. He's all flesh behind that.
All Father, give me
Fire, friends.
healing my wounds.
Coming up behind us to the west, northwest.
Recharging shields.
Yeah, just keep holding our spot.
Attacking. Opening fire.
Scanning the area. 1 minute remains. The ring is close. Recharging my shield.
Making contact.
Go out to the left here and jump down.
Let's go this way. Giving my shields a recharge.
Let's just camp now. Yeah, we got this. We got this. They killed another squad.
10 seconds. The ring is fairly close.
I need to change my settings. I just need to open mic. I can't be pressing T to talk. Just gotta be careful when we're up here, because we know 2 teams are up there, but I think there's still one other. We just gotta camp them right here. Camp them. Just wait. They're gonna come. Probably.
Let's explore this way.
Here. Here's 2.
Shield cell here.
Trying to watch right here.
Hostile over there.
I'm taking them. I'll give them back to you if you need them right here.
Target spotted. Incoming care package.
Stay on the ring's edge. Alright, they're behind us. I think they switched. It's right here.
Hostile right. Contact with hostile. Using grapple.
Other one's over here. Dang it. He's healing. Just behind us. He's hurt. Here, push this guy. Push him. He's hurt. He's flesh. Nice. I gotta push up now. That guy's probably gonna try to rush us. You got him?
Yep.
Alright, good job.
Repairing. Recharging shield.
Okay. Come on.
On the zip line. I am.
There's only one team, so we have no idea. It could be solo, it could be a full squad. Not sure. He's hurt. He's flesh. About to land on him. One's him.
I'm down.
Downed him.
Enemy down.
I'm down.
Yeah, I'm sliding down the hill.
1 minute. The ring is reloading.
She's almost dead. I got this.
Just healing.
Let's go. One has a self res.
Enemy down.
Let's go.
You're insane, dude. What fucking shit.
Let's go. Ooh, good job, guys. Squad up, boys. Let's go. Woo! That was a good one. That was a really good one. Man, I gotta go to the bathroom real quick and get some tea. Good game. Beast up, team. Who's invite me?